The truth about my in-laws. Why they treat my husband like a child. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My MIL handed the nurse a folder and said, "He's not capable." That sentence didn't land, it detonated. We were at Dr. Bennon's office for Daniel's routine blood work and a refill request. I'm Sarah, 34, HR coordinator who lives by calendars and clean documentation. Daniel, 36, is kind and competent, a project tech who can rebuild a router blindfolded, but freezes when conflict smells like family. Evelyn, my mother-in-law, has a manicure that glints like a warning and a smile the town calls gracious. She slid that folder across the counter before I could speak. "We handle his paperwork," she said smoothly. "He gets overwhelmed." The nurse glanced at me. I lifted our insurance card, our HIPAA release, our marriage certificate copy I keep. Ridiculous, maybe, but useful. "Daniel authorized me," I said, calm as a signed form. Evelyn laughed softly. "She means well," she told the nurse. "But we've kept him steady since childhood." Thomas, my father-in-law, stood behind her like a shadow with a pen, ready to sign whatever she prepared. Daniel squeezed my hand under the clipboard. "It's fine," he whispered, eyes darting to his mother's face like he was 12 again. I asked to see the folder. Evelyn angled it away, then sighed, the kind that recruits allies. "Just vaccination records," she said. The side tab read Care Plan, Daniel in precise block letters. I have spent a decade of my career spotting tiny words that change futures. Care Plan should not sit in a parent's binder for a married adult. The nurse excused herself. The door closed with the soft click of neutrality. Evelyn leaned in. "Honey, you do feelings. I do logistics. Let me carry this. Here is what I stand to lose. My husband's adulthood, paper cut by paper cut. Our mortgage with my name first, and is a polite afterthought. The right to answer, we, without calling his mother for permission." The folder said I already had. On the drive home, Daniel stared out the window at nothing. I watched the green light turn and decided to stop blinking through kindness that worked like a leash. The next visit would not look like this. The next visit would be ours. I took the folder and felt the ground lift under me. History gets rewritten as help in my in-laws' house. The first time I met Evelyn, she served lemon bars and a schedule. "Daniel likes routines," she said, sliding a laminated week across the table. "When to call, when to eat fish, when to rest screens." Thomas nodded like a metronome. Daniel smiled, grateful and embarrassed. We were dating then. I thought, generous parents. I didn't yet know generosity can come with handcuffs padded in velvet. Snapshots. Daniel forgetting his wallet at a diner. Evelyn calling the server back, paying with a card embossed with both their names, his second. "He misplaces things," she said, winking. Daniel laughed, but I watched the way his shoulders dipped. Thanksgiving year 2. I offered to bring sweet potatoes. Evelyn messaged a list of brand names, cooking times, and an arrival window to avoid overstimulation. She introduced me to her book club as Daniel's babysitter with benefits. The room laughed. I laughed too, the toxic reflex of a newcomer wanting admission. When we married, Evelyn gifted us a family calendar account already populated with dentist, oil changes, and color-coded reminders. Hers, not ours. She said, "You'll thank me when life gets busy." Thomas installed a Wi-Fi extender while Daniel and I opened our wedding cards. Later that night, our router password flashed on my phone as updated by admin. I raised an eyebrow. Daniel said, "Mom's thorough." I said, "So am I." We changed it back. Fresh wound. 2 months ago at Sunday dinner, Evelyn tapped her glass. "Toast to Sarah," she sang, "for doing the emotional labor so Daniel can do his hands-on tasks." She squeezed my shoulder and murmured, "Some women are natural carers." On the drive home, Daniel said, "She jokes. It keeps peace." I looked at his profile and saw a boy taught that peace means swallowing his own voice. I started keeping a small notebook in my purse, dates, phrases, the moment kindness slid into control. When does help become a leash? When the hand never lets go. Evelyn called me the babysitter and smiled like she'd blessed us. The first red flags weren't red, they were beige, the color of plausible. Tuesday, 7:14 a.m. My phone chimed with a calendar update. Daniel's dental check moved from Friday afternoon to Wednesday morning, smack in the middle of a training I'd scheduled months ago. The change came from family admin. I hadn't touched it. Daniel shrugged. Mom said Fridays are terrible for traffic. I said, we don't commute to her house for cleanings. He kissed my forehead, cautious. It's one appointment. Thursday, a bank envelope meant for us arrived already opened, then taped shut with care. The statement showed a courtesy overdraft on an account I didn't recognize, suffix -17. Our joint checking ends in -03. Old account, Daniel mumbled. Mom watches those, it's fine. I called the bank. The agent, cheerful, said, do you have the verbal password? I gave ours. Different profile, she chirped, then added, we'll need Evelyn's okay to disclose. My stomach dropped through the floor. Sunday night, our streaming service logged out on the TV. The recovery email on file wasn't ours. Admin again. I reset everything and printed a password sheet for our safe. Daniel laughed. You really are HR at home. I said, security is love. 15 minutes later, a text pinged from Evelyn. He's always struggled with logistics. Don't make him feel small with lists. I hadn't sent her the sheet. Daniel had taken a photo to show how organized we are. My lists became evidence against me. I told myself to stop reading malice into management. Then the clinic portal alerted me to a password reset requested by caregiver at 2:11 p.m. while Daniel and I were at the hardware store choosing paint. We hadn't requested anything. I called the clinic. A polite voice recited policy. We can only discuss with the patient or authorized representative. I'm his wife, I said. Yes, she replied. And your mother-in-law is the representative on file. When Daniel saw my face, he went still. Mom handled my forms after the concussion, he said. We never updated. I nodded. Then we will now. I printed revocation and authorization templates before bedtime and laid them on our kitchen table. Daniel stared at the forms like they were a math test from a class he skipped. He said, Mom won't like this. And the room trembled with old obedience. Evelyn invited us to a check-in dinner, which sounded like soup and civility until we arrived and saw place cards like we were clients at intake. She'd set a tidy stack of papers at Daniel's spot labeled Care Plan, Revision 6, and clipped a pin to the top like a leash. Just routine, she sang, ladling stew. Daniel thrives on structure. Thomas poured water with ceremonial care and avoided my eyes. I watched Daniel shrink an inch, the way people do when their old lives fit better than their new ones. We're good on structure, I said lightly. Evelyn's smile didn't move. Not with your schedules, she replied, and tapped a section titled Sleep Hygiene with bullet points about screens, lights, and when he should stop caffeine. Under finances, she'd typed, parental oversight recommended until stability is assured. I asked, assured by whom? Evelyn folded her hands. By people who know him. Daniel tried a joke that broke in his mouth. She pressed on. He's always had executive function challenges. Remember 5th grade, darling? Daniel nodded, flustered. Mom. She turned to me. We kept him safe then. We'll keep him safe now. I said he's not a boy. She said, he's not built for decisions without guidance. Thomas murmured, it's best, like an amen. Midway through, Evelyn produced a manila folder stamped with a bank's logo. Small housekeeping, she trilled. We moved his leftover student account into a safer vehicle we can monitor. She had already filled lines under payable on death. Her name appeared where mine should, a fact she called temporary. Daniel looked at me helplessly. It's old money, he whispered. It's nothing. Old money grows into present control if you water it with silence. I swallowed heat and asked to take the folders home to review. Evelyn hesitated, then nodded, sweet as a locked door. In the driveway, Daniel exhaled like he'd outrun a siren. She means well, he said weakly. I touched his cheek. Kindness isn't consent paperwork, I said. At home, I opened every page and stuck sticky notes like flags, dates, initials, edits in Evelyn's neat, bossy pen. In the margins, she'd written, he panics, keep simple, and under appointments. Confirm with me first. I highlighted each line that turned help into authority until the pages glowed with proof. Then I found a calendar printout where my name had been replaced with support person, wife. Isolation works best when it looks like efficiency. Monday morning, a ping announced a new group chat, Family Health, Admin. The participants list showed 3 names, Evelyn, Thomas, and Daniel, managed. Managed. No Sarah. I scrolled our joint calendar. The dental slot shifted again, accompanied by a cheerful note. Rescheduled for optimal functioning, Mom. When I called Daniel, he sounded like someone carrying a tray through a crowded room. It's fine. She's just smoothing. I said, smoothing removes edges we need to hold on to. He sighed. Please don't start a war. At lunch, I met Dr. Reyes, a clinician I trust from work trainings, and asked broad questions for a relative. She said, autonomy is the default. Guardianship is the exception. Families sometimes over-medicalize to justify control. She slid me a resource on revoking outdated authorizations. Put it in writing. Emotions won't win this. I copied templates, grateful for verbs that could carry weight. That evening, a neighbor forwarded a thread from Evelyn's book club. Poor Daniel. So sensitive. Thank goodness Evelyn keeps him on track. Replies called me intense, a word that excuses boundary breakers by blaming the person naming the break. I set my jaw and opened a fresh notebook I titled House Reality. First pages, timeline of calendar edits, the bank suffix -17 mystery, clinic portal resets, the managed tag. I added screenshots, caller IDs, envelope glue still tacky from being opened away from our table. When Daniel came home, I placed 2 forms on the island. HIPAA revocation of third-party access and new medical financial contact designating spouses only. We'll bring these to Dr. Benton together, I said. He stared at the lines like they were cliffs. She'll be furious. I nodded. She can be furious in her home. She can't be in ours. He rubbed his temple. I don't want to hurt her. You're not, I answered softly. You're taking back your adulthood. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, voicemail transcription. Following up on last year's guardianship consult for Daniel. Happy to revisit. I pressed play and heard Evelyn's voice in the background giving our address to a stranger. The voicemail looped in my head all night. Evelyn's voice steady and precise as she confirmed our address like she was reading from a script. Guardianship consult. My husband was 36 years old, not 16. Yet here was proof she'd already laid the groundwork to place him legally under her thumb again. In the morning, I slid the transcript across the table to Daniel. He paled. That must have been after my concussion, he said quickly. She was worried. I tapped the date, April of last year. He hadn't had a concussion then. He'd been teaching summer robotics camp, alert and healthy. Daniel's eyes clouded. Maybe she misunderstood. I whispered, or maybe she didn't. I called the bank about the mysterious suffix -17 account. After 3 transfers, a polite representative confirmed it was joint with parental oversight and flagged as temporary until stable. Stable? I asked who defined that. The line went quiet before she repeated, authorized signatory is Evelyn Matthews. I hung up with my pulse hammering. At lunch, I met Dr. Reyes again. She frowned at my notes. Guardianship isn't simple paperwork. It's a legal declaration of incapacity. The fact she even consulted suggests intent, not misunderstanding. She told me to start requesting Daniel's medical and financial records formally. Document everything. Sunlight matters. That night, I confronted Daniel gently. Your mother isn't just helping. She's setting up to control you forever. He shook his head. She wouldn't, she loves me. I asked, does love erase your choices? Does love sign papers behind your back? He didn't answer. His silence was an echo of years spent trained to obey. My phone pinged again, an alert from our credit monitoring app. A temporary guardianship inquiry had been filed with the county clerk's office 2 months ago. The requesting party? Evelyn Matthews. I printed the notice and slid it into my growing binder, the pages now heavy with evidence of quiet theft. And when Daniel saw his mother's name under petitioner, his face crumpled like paper soaked in rain. The breadcrumb trail stretched wider once I knew where to look. At the courthouse records office, I requested public filings under Daniel's name. The clerk pulled 2 slim folders. Inside, a request for limited guardianship consultation, with Evelyn listed as interested party. Filed but never finalized. Attached was a draft letter from her attorney citing lifelong executive functioning issues. My hands shook as I read words that turned quirks into disabilities and hesitation into incapacity. At the clinic, I accessed Daniel's portal. Recent logins showed IP addresses not from our devices. One matched Evelyn's home internet, noted with her zip code. Reset attempts were logged at times Daniel had been with me, hardware store trips, movies, dinners. She had been in his records constantly. Our insurance explanation of benefits showed strange entries too. Consultations billed under care coordination. When I called, the rep confirmed those were linked to Evelyn as family caregiver. Daniel hadn't seen any specialists. Evelyn had logged services in his name. That night, I laid it all out on our dining table: documents, printouts, timestamps, highlighted passages. Daniel sat silent, head in hands. She told me I forget things, he muttered. That she has to double-check. His voice cracked. Maybe she's right. I touched his shoulder. Forgetting a bill isn't incapacity. Struggling under control isn't weakness. It's conditioning. Thomas called while we sat there. His voice was low, nervous. Sarah, maybe let Evelyn handle things. She doesn't want him hurt. I said, he's already hurt. Silence stretched. Then he whispered, I just sign what she puts in front of me. When I hung up, Daniel stared at me with haunted eyes. If she's been planning this all along, what else has she taken? I flipped one more page in the courthouse file and saw a line item titled Payable on Death Beneficiary Change Request. The beneficiary wasn't me. It was Evelyn. The words on that form blurred, but I forced myself to read them again. Payable on Death Beneficiary Change Request, Evelyn Matthews. She had filed to redirect Daniel's modest life insurance policy without his knowledge. My throat went dry. This wasn't about small favors or forgetfulness. This was a net, carefully woven. I handed the page to Daniel. His hands trembled. She told me years ago I didn't need to worry about that paperwork. Said she'd take care of it until I felt ready. He looked at me with a mix of shame and disbelief. She made me sign things when I was younger, Sarah. I didn't even read them. I folded the form into my binder. This isn't help. It's control disguised as care. The next day, I met Attorney Cole. He skimmed through the documents silently, his brow furrowed. This, he said finally, tapping the guardianship drafts, is not standard maternal concern. It's a preparation for legal authority. Combined with the financial moves, it paints a troubling picture. He advised Daniel to revoke any powers of attorney on record and lock down his accounts. That night, I confronted Evelyn directly. She served us tea in her spotless kitchen, smile fixed. Sarah, I think you've been misunderstanding. Daniel needs structure. He's always needed it. I pushed the papers across the counter. Structure doesn't mean stealing his choices. Or his money. Her smile wavered for the first time. If I hadn't stepped in, he'd have ruined himself years ago. I'm protecting him from his own tendencies. Her voice dropped, sharp as glass. And from you, if I must. Daniel sat frozen, unable to meet her eyes. On the drive home, he whispered, if my own mother doesn't see me as an adult, maybe I'm not. I couldn't let Evelyn's words sink their hooks any deeper into him. The next morning, I spread out the binder again, this time showing Daniel every timeline, every log, every contradiction. Look at the dates, I urged. When you were teaching camp, when you were running our budget, when you fixed the car. Do those sound like someone incapable? Slowly, he shook his head. His shoulders straightened a little. She rewrote me, he said. Made my life into a story where I'm helpless. We drafted a plan. With Attorney Cole's guidance, Daniel signed revocation forms for any lingering powers of attorney, updated his beneficiaries, and placed his accounts under two-factor authentication. For the clinic portal, Dr. Reyes helped him reset everything, locking out Evelyn's unauthorized access. But we couldn't stop there. Evelyn had been too deliberate. She wouldn't let go quietly. That evening, at a family dinner, she tried her usual tactics. Danny, she cooed, don't forget your pills. You always forget. Daniel calmly replied, I already took them. I set my own reminders now. Evelyn's smile froze. She pivoted to me. Sarah, you've been pushing him too hard. He needs a softer hand. Before I could answer, Thomas spoke up for once. He's fine, Evie. He's stronger than you think. Evelyn shot him a glare that silenced the room. After dessert, she pulled me aside. Her tone was syrup-sweet. You're making him unstable. If this goes to court, you won't win. My heart pounded, but I held her gaze. We already have the records, Evelyn. If this goes to court, you'll be explaining why you were in his medical files. Her eyes darkened, mask cracking for the first time. And then she whispered, You have no idea how much I've already put in motion. That sentence haunted me the whole night. What had she already put in motion? I woke up restless and checked our shared calendar. Sure enough, 2 appointments had appeared without our consent. One at the bank, one at a clinic. Both listed under Daniel's name. Both marked as routine. I showed Daniel over breakfast. His face paled. I didn't schedule those. His fork clattered against the plate. She's not stopping. She's doubling down. Attorney Cole urged us to get ahead of it. Show up at those appointments. Document who scheduled them. And be ready to revoke any fraudulent consents in writing. The first stop was the bank. We arrived early, papers in hand. The manager looked startled. I thought your mother was handling this for you, Mr. Matthews. Daniel's jaw tightened. I'm 36 years old. I handle my own accounts. He slid the revocation forms across the desk. From now on, no one, not even family, accesses my finances without me here. At the clinic, it was worse. The nurse checked the screen and said, "Guardianship consult follow-up?" Daniel froze. My stomach twisted. Evelyn had booked him as if he were already under restricted rights. Dr. Reyes intervened, stepping in with authority. There is no active guardianship. This man is fully capable, and any paperwork suggesting otherwise is invalid without court approval. Evelyn arrived late, flustered but still poised. "Danny, honey, I was just trying to help organize your life." Daniel straightened in his chair. "No, Mom. You were trying to own it." Her smile cracked. She muttered under her breath, "If you want to embarrass me, so be it." But then she looked me dead in the eye and whispered, "You're tearing this family apart, Sarah." The pressure cooker finally exploded at the next family dinner. Evelyn laid out a spread of roast and vegetables, acting like nothing was wrong. Halfway through the meal, she produced a slim folder and placed it in front of Daniel. "Just routine. Insurance adjustments. Sign here, sweetheart." Daniel didn't touch the pen. He glanced at me, then back at her, not without my attorney reviewing it. Her cheeks flushed crimson. "Don't be ridiculous. Families don't need lawyers between them." "Yes," Daniel said firmly, "sometimes they do." The room fell silent. Only the sound of cutlery scraping. Thomas looked torn, his eyes darting between his wife and son. Finally, he sighed. "Evie, maybe we should let him handle things his way." Her voice sharpened, louder than I'd ever heard. "You'd let him throw everything away? He'd be lost without me." Daniel's hands shook, but his voice was steady. "I'm not lost. I'm finding myself." I slid my binder onto the table. Page after page, screenshots of altered portal logs, guardianship drafts, bank notices, spilled out. Evelyn's eyes widened, then narrowed into daggers. "This is slander," she spat. "You're painting me as a villain when all I've done is protect him." "No," I said quietly but firmly. "You've been caging him." She stood, trembling, and pointed at me. "You think you've won, Sarah, but you don't understand what I'm capable of." The weight of her threat chilled the room to silence. And then Thomas whispered, "Maybe it's time everyone finally sees the truth." Thomas's words seemed to knock the air out of Evelyn. She sank back into her chair, shaking her head slowly as though she couldn't believe her own husband had betrayed her. "You don't know what you're saying," she hissed. "I know exactly what I'm saying," Thomas replied. His voice was low, but it carried. "We've let this charade go on far too long." I opened the folder wider so the evidence was in plain sight. Insurance forms with her handwriting, portal logs showing her logging in under Daniel's ID, guardianship drafts filed but not signed. Daniel pushed the stack forward. "Explain this, Mom. Explain why you've been planning for me to stay a child." Her polished mask cracked. "Because you're not ready, Daniel. You've always been fragile, too trusting. Without me, you'd be eaten alive." Daniel's jaw clenched. "I've been eaten alive, Mom, by you." The silence that followed was suffocating. Thomas rubbed his temples, finally saying, "We need mediation. Someone impartial. This can't be fought over dinner." Evelyn scoffed, but I saw the tremor in her hands. "Fine. If you want to drag strangers into our family, do it." Dr. Reyes and Attorney Cole agreed to host a mediated meeting at the clinic's conference room the following week. I spent every spare moment gathering copies, notarized forms, and a statement of Daniel's wishes. The night before, Evelyn called our home phone. Her voice was calm, almost sweet. "Sarah, if you love Daniel, you'll cancel this. Once papers like this exist, you can't undo them. It'll scar his reputation forever." I hung up without responding. Daniel stood beside me, his hand steady on mine. The next morning, We walked into the conference room with our folders, ready for war. But Evelyn was already there, smiling at the mediator, claiming she had nothing to hide. The mediated session was tense from the start. Dr. Reyes laid the ground rules: respect, honesty, and evidence only. Evelyn sat rigid, pearls around her neck, insisting she was misunderstood. Everything I did was for Daniel's best interest. Attorney Cole opened our binder, projecting the documents on the screen. Side-by-side comparisons showed guardianship drafts, altered appointment notes, and bank statements with her signature beside Daniel's forged initials. Daniel leaned forward. "Mom, these are not accidents. These are choices." Her voice cracked, but she clung to the story. "I only wanted to make sure nothing slipped through the cracks. He forgets things." I shook my head. "He forgets because you trained him to. You made him doubt himself." Finally, Dr. Reyes displayed portal access logs with timestamps, most of them during hours when Daniel was at work, nowhere near a computer. Evelyn's face drained of color. "Enough," Daniel said firmly. "From today on, I revoke any consent you think you have. I'll manage my accounts, my health, my life." Evelyn's voice turned sharp. "You're being manipulated by her." She jabbed a finger at me. "Sarah is filling your head with poison." But Thomas spoke for the first time. "No, Evie. He's finally free of it." Evelyn's composure shattered. She slammed her hand on the table, tears welling in her eyes. "You'll regret this, Daniel. Without me, you'll fall apart." Dr. Reyes calmly slid the signed revocation papers into a file. "It's done. Access rescinded. Guardianship denied." Evelyn stormed out, muttering that we'd destroyed the family. The door closed behind her, but I couldn't shake the feeling she wasn't finished. The weeks that followed felt both liberating and exhausting. Daniel had to rebuild routines from scratch, things most adults take for granted. He applied for his own health portal login, set up direct alerts from the bank, and even changed the locks on our house. Each step made him stand taller, like he was reclaiming a part of himself piece by piece. We started therapy together. The counselor gently pointed out how Daniel's sense of self had been chipped away over decades. "It wasn't just protection," she said. "It was conditioning." Hearing that out loud brought him to tears, but it also gave him words for the fog he'd lived under. We made practical changes, too. Shared passwords for household devices, a joint budget with full transparency, scheduled check-ins for finances and health decisions. For the first time, Daniel was signing his own forms without second-guessing. He looked at me one evening and whispered, "I feel like I'm finally allowed to be 36. But the price was real. Evelyn refused to speak to us. She rallied cousins and family friends, spinning the story that I had stolen her son and ruined the family bond. Invitations dried up, side eyes lingered at the grocery store, whispers followed us in town. Thomas called once, voice heavy. "She won't let it go, Sarah? But maybe distance is what we all need." His words were weary but carried a strange relief. Daniel grieved the fracture, but he also admitted he finally felt like he could breathe. "For once, I don't feel like a child pretending to be a man." Still, every time the phone rang with an unknown number, my stomach knotted. Because I knew Evelyn wasn't finished trying to pull him back under her control. Months later, the final confrontation came in a quiet but powerful way. Evelyn sent Daniel a thick envelope by certified mail. Inside were letters, pleas written in her careful script. She begged him to reconsider, to trust his mother, to undo what we'd put in place. But tucked at the bottom was another guardianship draft, and signed, waiting. Daniel stared at it for a long time. Then, with trembling hands, he ripped it clean in half. "No more," he said. His voice was steady, his back straight. We filed a formal notice with the court, attaching copies of the envelope. Attorney Cole assured us it would end any further attempts. "Paper trails protect you now," he said. "She can't undo what's been documented." Life slowly found a new rhythm. Daniel cooked dinners, scheduled his own appointments, even planned a small vacation for the two of us. They were small victories, but each one mattered. One morning, I found him sitting on the porch with coffee, sunlight warming his face. He looked at me and said, "I don't just feel like your husband now. I feel like my own man." That moment etched itself into me. We had fought through deception, gaslighting, and control, but he had come out on the other side, stronger, freer, and finally whole. To anyone listening, love isn't just about protecting someone. It's about empowering them. even if it means standing up to those closest to you. Because sometimes the people who claim to protect you are the very ones holding the leash. And the only way forward is to cut it loose, no matter the cost.